What is good? We're back. We just did the running backs 2024 Dynasty rankings. Coming over here, going to hit the receivers, doing 2024-2025 Dynasty rankings. No rookies involved yet, but they will be in there soon. I'm Casey. We got Big Co over there. We're the FF Dynasty. Going to do a little season kind of ending. We got a couple playoffs games here and fortunate enough to be in some as well as Big Co. But we've got a whole season of information here. Going to hit you with a quick rankings discussion. All right, well, let's kick it off. Tier 1, I'm going Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and then I'm throwing Nico Collins in here. I could have Amon-Ra St. Brown in here. So I think last time we did these, I had a big tier 1. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown in there, and then I had the two rookies, Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr. in there. I could have all those guys in there again and not really have a problem with it. I just, Nico's in there for me. I mean, he's number 2 on the season in points per game. Obviously missed a chunk of time, but he's at 19.5 points per game, I believe. Yep. Number 2 out of all the wide receivers. And just he's Stroud's guy. He's a dog, just like all those other guys. Obviously, Chase is blowing it out of the water. But as you remember, well, maybe some of you don't, because it doesn't seem like some of y'all have the best memory. But Chase was very obtainable, and some people were asking if they should kick him out of this group last year, but that's why we don't do that, right? We sit back, we relax, we take our time, and we know that what Chase already is, we're good, right? So I'm going to throw Nico in there. Chase is in there, and St. Brown could be in there. I worry slightly about division of labor over there, just because they know what they want to do and they do it well, running the ball. The O-line's good. 100%. J-Mo's over there, tight ends over there. Tim Patrick apparently scores 3 touchdowns sometimes, or right, whatever it is. Puka, I think, is making his way up there. He's probably top of tier 2 right now for me, but Puka's just every bit as dominant as those other guys. I feel like when just maybe a little bit more banged up play to play. But I really wanted to. My big thing was making the point of Nabers and Harrison, and why I can keep him in there was basically just because, like, at one point in this season, week 4, 5, 6, whatever it was, you could have absolutely 100% traded Malik Nabers for CeeDee Lamb. Maybe not to me and you, Big Co. Maybe not to me and you.
You could have traded Nabers. You could have traded Nabers for Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. It would have been very close. If it wasn't straight up, it wouldn't have taken much to add to Nabers to get the best wide receiver in the league.
Right.
That's how hot he was in week 3, week 4.
Right. And Marv didn't put it together any weeks like that in a row, but has put together some good weeks. He's played the X the whole time. He's, as far as all the film guys are concerned, he's running big boy routes, doing big boy things. Kyler has been a little up and down. They're a power running team now. The Petzing, the OC is just getting his sea legs. We're trying to figure out what he does and how he does it. But Marv's going to go over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowts, man. Like, that's a rookie.
It'd be close.
Right.
It'd be close, and that's still a really, really strong season.
Right. And so if Marv, let's say the back end of the season, he finishes with a bunch of 18s and 20s.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna, people are, and CD's struggling for one reason or another. And Justin Jefferson, maybe not putting up Justin Jefferson numbers. As soon as that isn't happening, people's stances on them and positions on them get weakened. And now you're looking at, maybe I should trade Justin Jefferson for Marv, who's coming up, and Justin's coming down because Addison, yada, yada. You know what I mean? That's not the position that you and I take. But the way I look at it is the value for those guys is teetering on the edge of, was already, before they did anything, was already teetering on the edge. And now you've had chunks of seasons where there were points, at least from Nabers, and it's unfair to Harrison because Nabers was just getting force-fed so much volume that he was able to do. And I'm not taking anything away from Nabers. I'm just saying he was getting force-fed, and then comparison's a thief of joy. So everyone is so mad at Harrison when he's having a good season, but Nabers just had this great run because Danny Dimes pumped him a bunch of targets. Now, you can see the downfall of Malik Nabers right now is when things aren't going well, that's a guy in the locker room that there's going to have to be a bunch of guys being like, hey, bud, hey, let's keep going. Hey, hey, keep going. Hey, everything's all right. You here this week? Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
make sure you get a driver, dog. Like, just don't be driving.
True.
That's kind of my spiel on the first little bit. As it stands, I'm going 4 guys: Jefferson, Chase, CD. I'm throwing Nico in there. What say you, Big Co?
Well, when you first got started, I was trying really hard not to just be grinning as big from ear to ear, because I jumped on the Nico train as soon as he started doing anything last year. Traded for him a handful of times through the offseason. Got him a time or two last year before it got too crazy when he was still cheaper. Extraordinarily happy for Nico Collins to be up here. Completely agree that you could put Marvin Harrison and Malik Nabers up here. I will say that I'm definitely a little bit more timid on Marvin Harrison in the short term, because I think we have a pound for pound, maybe one of the best athletes in the NFL playing quarterback for the Cardinals. He's not the best quarterback. When the play's breaking down and he's running all over the place, it's him and Lamar Jackson, and there ain't no third place. It's
maybe
not
Jaden
even
Daniels
close.
Is getting there.
Maybe Jaden Daniels now, but I haven't seen him do it enough time and time again. Like, Kyler could keep a play open now, but when it comes to just taking the snap, dropping back, hitting that 7-step drop and throwing, like he's.
But that can also turn into magic if those two can figure out how to ad lib, right?
They're already kind of decent at ad lib. The problem was I need them to do libbing. I need a more consistent target and a more consistent catch ratio, but I think that could probably be found over the offseason.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more timid about Marvin Harrison just because of the combination of
but
the
would
fact
it shock you at all if this time next year when the season ends that Marvin Harrison, we're talking Marvin Harrison of being, oh my God.
No.
Right.
But the thing is the combination of him being an X receiver with a quarterback that might not be the best guy at getting the ball to an X receiver on time and consistently is the problem. Now, it would not shock me at all if next year at 365 days to the date here that we're like, it's Marvin Harrison's the number one receiver, and that's fine. That he would have, he's got some pretty solid company in this wide receiver 1 tier to jump now, so good maybe I would be. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing here is for me, like, Puka's right there with him too, but I think there's an eliteness level to Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, St. Brown. He could catch 15 balls a game if they need him to. Yeah. You said it. I think that was, what'd you say? Division of labor. That's a great term, great phrase. I think you got to have multiple, with multiple words, it's a phrase. A term is one word. It's a great phrase. It's fantastic. So yeah, they blow out teams. The Lions don't need to throw to St. Brown that often. When they do, he's always there. He's always open. He's always going to catch it. He plays with he's up there blocking and he's happy to do it. He plays with his face just like Puka does. Like you said, basically the tier 1 and tier 2 here could just be meshed together. But the division is almost like that. Tier 2 is a little bit younger and tier 1 is a little bit more guaranteed targets each and every week. And there's your production versus age in Dynasty. And I think you can be, this comes into a personal type situation. Like, hey, am I going to take Nico Collins, who maybe is one of the absolute dogs, to help me my team win for 3 years? Or am I going to take Marvin Harrison, who could be, in 3 years, he's going to be 24 still and an absolute stud, know? Right. So that's
some preference in there for sure.
There's preference. So I think the beauty of it is you got 8 guys here and you can't go wrong with any of them. Maybe Marvin Harrison right this second, not maybe, but he's probably the least confident start in your starting lineup out of those 8 guys.
Out of those guys, he's the biggest risk, but also the most giant reward.
Maybe. Well, I mean, I think, at this point, maybe cost wise, just because Jamar Chase is going to be off the board every time. There is no risk in taking Jamar Chase, and the reward is.
I would just say,
what I mean?
Tier 2 guys right now, just that he's so much younger, and then he can be. I think he can be on that level. So just to recap, my 1 and 2 are Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins in no particular order, and then 2 is Puka, St. Brown, Nabers, Harrison, in no particular order. But I guess if I had to rank them in tier, that'd be kind of where it is. 4, 2 anyway. 1, I didn't put that much thought into it because I really don't care. Do what you will.
Hey guys, a quick reminder to head over to patreon.com/the FF Dynasty to sign up for a free membership to get access to the free Discord channel. Or hit your boys with the $5 holler and get access to extra shows, mock drafts, roster reviews, ADP, and player pages. All for your pleasure.
Just for you and the listener, just hit me with 1 and 2. Same or?
Sure. I mean, Puka and St. Brown, like they've done nothing but deserve to be there. And it feels like St. Brown's have a little bit more floor games this year, had only, one huge game. The Lions are outside of a slip up to the Bucks are undefeated. They got one loss and they're doing it the way they want to do it. And they're absolutely crushing. And so, I mean, that's just right now, the St. Brown's basically your best chance at the least amount of targets every week for those teams, those guys, because they don't have to have it.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to tier 3. I'm going to just list mine out. I'll see where you're at. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's not. I'm going AJ Brown, which is, people don't like it right now, but whatever. Rashee Rice, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas, Odunze. JSN's one of the biggest risers, and we'll cap off this conversation of this tier and going into the next tier of, I think he fits somewhere in here, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk about your thoughts, Big Co, on kind of the tier 3. AJ Brown, I think this week, by the time this comes out, is probably going to be squeaky wheel, getting the grease, or however that phrase goes. We know how good he is, right?
Sure.
A bit of a, bummer in the locker room, it seems like, but this is, like you said, this kind of goes with the receivers a little bit. Rashee Rice, if you don't like it, I don't really care. It's just, if he was still playing right now, he'd be wide receiver 3 on the season. The floor is like 16 points. I see, to me, Hopkins wouldn't be on that team. Kelsey wouldn't be doing as much as he's doing right now. He's their guy. He's taken over. They got a good rapport. They figured out how to use him. The shit in the beginning of the season when he got hurt for any random first is the dumbest shit I ever heard. And I'm going to continue to say that just because that was obscene and nonsense. Stop listening to that. I just believe, I don't care what sometimes take lock and physical attributes, and we all have it to some extent, but just get over it. He's good. And he fits what they want to do, and they know how to use him. That's all I'm going to say on Rashee Rice. I think he's great. Drake London's cooled a little bit, but the Falcons have cooled a little bit. But we saw if he gets the proper targets, he can be elite. Garrett Wilson, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Everyone that I talk to in our Discord and all, everyone almost seems bummed with Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson's like wide receiver 6 on the fucking season. Again, showing you how good he can be if he just gets the targets that are just not terrible quarterback targets, which I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is good at any way, shape, or form at this point, but Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers are far cries away from delivering the football from the last 2 quarterbacks that both of those wide receivers have seen. Brian Thomas looks great. And for me, Odunze, I'm just not moving him down. I knew this what it was. I think his skill level is up there with those guys. I think any of these guys could be in tier 2, if not tier 1. We've seen it from Odunze a few times this season, and the film guys will tell you that he's open. I'll tell you that he's open because I've watched a lot of Bears football this year. People were really bummed about JSN last year, and I think Rome's shown people more than JSN kind of showed as being an alpha, being tied in with Caleb Williams and him. And hey, if you don't like Caleb Williams, whatever, but those guys being tied in and growing together, and him moving up in the pecking order, and we don't know who's going to be the quarterback or the coordinator there next season, but if you're not doing everything you can to pay Ben Johnson to come over there and run that offense, just get the checkbook out.
Sure.
Fix this problem or whomever. I don't want to knock Eberflus because that's a great defensive coach. Great defensive coach.
It happens all the time. There's plenty of coordinators that are
defense. Everyone was sleeping on that defense from the jump, and they were great. And this last week that we saw them, and you'll see him again when you see this video, there'll be another game tape of the Bears. That last game against the Niners where they were just terrible. Eberflus wasn't there, Bo. That's just, he shouldn't have been the coach anymore. They should have fired him. That's fine. But that defense and what he did, it's a good, whoever gets him as a defensive coordinator is knocking it out of the park next year. He's going to immediately make that defense into a good defense.
I guess it's a combination of the general manager and Eberflus. 2 years ago, the Bears were selling everything.
Yeah.
What was it like? Two seasons ago, the Bears they sold the linebacker that went to the Ravens for cheap. The middle linebacker.
Smith.
Who?
Roquan Smith.
They got rid of Khalil Mack. Perfect. So they sold
a corner. I forget who, but a good corner.
Two all pros. They sold 2 all pros for cheap. I think they did get decent for Mack, but they didn't get nothing for. I think they got a 2nd round pick for Roquan Smith, and then they were rebuilt in no time.
Fucking stud on the Ravens.
Stud. That's what I'm saying. So and they were rebuilt in a year. The next year they had all these rookies
pieces, but he coached them boys up. And we got on a side tangent here, which has nothing to do with wide receivers.
Sorry.
No, it's my fault.
Rome Odunze, right? We said that before the season started. I know I would have made a good effort in saying that expect with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and a rookie quarterback and a running back that can catch and a tight end that can play that's paid, expect lows and downward trends of value, expect this bumps in the road up and down. And we've seen it, and we've seen the ups, we've seen the downs. And so that's something, like you said, we expected it, and just capitalize on the lack of patience. Now, if Casey Myers has Rome Odunze, you're not getting him for any cheaper.
Right.
You're not, but there's going to be a couple players out there. There's a couple guys out there. If you're in 3 leagues, maybe one of your leagues, you'll be able to get Rome Odunze for cheaper than you should be able to get him. And those are the spots.
Be able to buy him for a first in this next coming draft because somebody was, somebody's telling them, the guy that they listen to is saying, just reload the clip. Go a new bullet.
Yeah, well, especially if you're a good team and you got a projected late first, and you don't have to necessarily be using your first for a player. You don't need to be going out and buying that Joe Mixon as a running back to fill in for a bad spot. If you can use your first round pick next year to go buy a Rome Odunze, that's a fantastic. You don't need
right now. Yeah,
exactly. You don't even have to have him, but you could put him on your bench.
Yeah, and to qualify this a little bit, I'm not saying that that Rome Odunze's value is equal to Garrett Wilson or Drake London's right now. That's not what I'm saying. Because basically what Big Co's saying is correct. I'm buying low on Rome Odunze. I'm saying I view the talent as good as that. And for me personally, my value isn't dropping all that much. So before anybody gets all crazy, which I'm sure they may have already, but it's when I make tiers like this, I'm trying to calculate all of these value, other people, public, yada, yada, yada. But to me, I'm sticking Rome Odunze in here to tell you how good I think Rome Odunze is, was, and will be. And that's I just want to kind of make that statement.
I really like that you said that, because I wasn't going to let us move away from this tier by saying that I think a lot of people out there sees Brian Thomas and Rome Odunze in the same tier. And I think a lot of people out there would take Brian Thomas easily over Rome Odunze right now, because he's shown us more than Rome Odunze has shown us. And it's tantalizing what he shows us sometimes. I think that's a really good way to break it down for people that aren't familiar enough with you and how we do our process around here. And I think that's a really fun tier there. Like you said, Drake London, anytime he gets the ball thrown his way, he does work. Garrett Wilson did slip down to maybe wide receiver 8 now, because JSN just edged him out. All
right. So I'm going to list tier 4 right here, and then we'll talk about JSN. All right. So tier 4, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, George Pickens. And, tier 5, we'll end the show with that, because that's going to bring plenty of guys into the fold, but it's a big one. And we will address tier 4 here in a second. So JSN, to me, any of those players, and this is why tiers and rankings are tough, because I'm taking Chris Olave, or I'm taking JSN pretty much over all those guys that I just listed off, right? Zay Flowers for me is I like Zay Flowers a lot. Special place in my heart. Like what he does, like how he plays.
Special place in my heart.
And I like Chris Olave a lot. And this is the further I dropped him down a tier or 2 here in this, and warranted a little bit. But when he's on the field, he's fucking good still. Buy low on Chris Olave, just like we've been talking about all season long. So to me, I would say JSN is ahead of tier 4. I don't think JSN is quite as good as Rome Odunze, but I don't know how much that matters, right? I think the talent level is close enough, and I think the way that the team is using him and moving forward, and just
opportunity and targets.
When you watch the Seahawks, and it's, there was a few times in this last game where DK Metcalf was the guy they went to in a spot, but there has been multiple weeks where they had in spots where they had to have it. It was JSN, and it's starting to come around to the point of where JSN is going to end up being their 1A, right? And I think DK is going to be the 1B, and there'll be games where DK has better stats than they're different receivers fundamentally, how they operate.
Completely.
And Lockett is seemingly on his way to being a realtor. And I think he's actually into that. That's why I kind of said that.
He is.
Lockett's been great. Love Lockett. That's nothing to do with Lockett of hating on him, but he's older, and JSN is everything they want and need. And the OC Grubb is finding ways to finally get him involved and used. They're going to be a 3 wide receiver team for the most part. But for me, I'm putting JSN in tier 3.
Man, I'm getting old because I remember loving Lockett as coming out of college.
Yeah.
Great day. This man's retiring, going into his second career already, about to be. And
he hadn't retired yet, so I hate to put him in the home.
Yeah, he doesn't have a walker out there right now, but he definitely is on the way out.
Retired.
He's been fantastic. He's been so fantastic. I believe it was Kansas State. Anyway,
K-State for sure.
JSN is going to be the 1A. If he's not already the 1B, he's going to be the 1A so fast there, because he gets open. And DK's open all the time because of his size, but it's a different kind of open. I think you're right on JSN. I think just the opportunity. I think for the opportunity, you put him right there in the same type of tier as a Drake London. Drake London's a really good receiver, a really good football player. I don't think that Drake London runs routes like Garrett Wilson,
right?
But I don't think Garrett Wilson is 220 pounds either.
Yeah,
And so for Drake London's a huge man to be able to move around like he does. He doesn't move like Garrett Wilson, so there's different types, skill types and body types in this tier. And they're all very good, and they're not the top, but like you said, given health, Rashee Rice would have been at the top, and AJ Brown, if he just had the targets, you would have had to put him at the top. So I don't have a lot of really negative to say about this kind of stuff.
Brian Thomas or JSN.
If my team's the best team in the league, I want Brian Thomas, because I'm gonna swing for the fences, and I got a chance to get that absolute ultimate alpha number 1 type receiver. If my team is the 3rd best team in the league, and I need to play catch up, and I don't have a chance to be a little bit wrong, JSN's safer to me.
All right, let's move to tier 4. Chris Olave, Metcalf, Zay Flowers, Pickens. To me, I have him here, and I have him above all the rest of the guys. 1, age, right? And we'll get to some of the guys in there some of them are a little younger, but 2, it's those guys. And regardless of what you're going to say, and Zay Flowers might be the only one you could possibly pick that apart on, but for the most part,
already preemptively saying, don't mess with Zay.
Well, just those guys are just all that kind of have that alpha number 1 kind of pedigree to him. And we just talked about JSN and JSN is ahead of DK Metcalf here. So, but DK Metcalf can certainly be the number 1, has the number 1 frame, does number 1 type stuff. These guys are all alphas and earn targets and do their thing. And JSN, I think, is just, on what they're doing and how they're doing. I think he's a better receiver than DK Metcalf, but DK can kind of do his thing. So they've got 2 Seahawks right there, and they're a gap. And that's why I have most of these guys above that. I say that to say that I have those guys in that tier because I have them above the next group of guys. And there are some of those guys in there that you could say, well, those guys are for number 1s on their team too, or it could be number 1s. And it's like, well, maybe a little age, maybe a little situation, maybe, yada, yada, yada. So I have those guys kind of in tier 4 for that reason. So I don't know if I like it. Like Big Co said, we went through this last night and talked about this a little bit. So, we're not a podcast, if this is your first time listening, who agrees on everything. But, in talking about these guys, we went over things, we merged some stuff, moved some stuff around. So tier 4, you got any differences of opinion, somebody that shouldn't be in there or somebody that should be down or somebody from the next tier that should be up?
Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle, to me, scream to have the ability, to do pretty much everything that the guys in this tier can do.
It's the furthest down I've ever had Waddle.
Exactly. And he did not a lot to deserve that. And nor necessarily did Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith.
Furthest down, I probably had Smith too.
Right. So those two are the team. And obviously, if Brandon Ayuk was healthy and happy, catching the most efficient targets in the league, as he did last year, it'd be hard. He definitely wouldn't be below George Pickens and Zay Flowers. He'd be right there with those guys, and DK Metcalf. Like I get it. I get this is a very tough spot. You said it right. You said it correctly. This is why rankings and tiers is tough. You get into a spot like this, and this is what I said at the end of the running back issue, like that all of these wide receivers are good and they're all going to score fantasy points. You kind of weigh it. You have obviously in Dynasty, you're weighing age versus production versus potential versus
value,
public value, trade value,
value of the league.
Yeah. And team build, like I just mentioned, when I take this guy over that guy, if I, Brian Thomas versus JSN, how my team is built, whether I like this player a little bit more than that player. Pickens is the ultimate boom bust, like team kind of guy. Cause who knows? I don't know if he's going to throw his helmet and walk off the field like Antonio Brown or not. But if he's in there and he's happy, he's ridiculous. This is one of those things where you just kind of talk a little circle around this situation and say, these guys are good. It's hard to confidently say this guy's better than this guy for this reason and not understand that in 4 months you could look very foolish.
Yeah.
Who do you like? Where's your preference? Jaden Reed. Is Jaden Reed going to get the ball a bunch this game? Because I love Jaden Reed. He's so much fun. Remember the first 2 weeks of the season?
Dude, the first couple of weeks of the season, I threw him way up there because I just wanted to make a statement of like, I'm done with the Packers throwing it around like they want to get him the ball. He's the guy. And I agree. But, this is so I'm just going to go run through this tier right quick because you've named half the guys in the tier.
Yeah, sure. And I would, just as like this is exactly why I put, Tyreek Hill down my rankings or a couple of guys over Tyreek Hill before the season started because this exact reason. Things weren't quite perfect. And now, you know what? He is 30, almost 31. Drop him 10 spots, because you pull the rug out from under him. If there's anything goes wrong when they're 30 years old, the asset's declining in a hurry.
Yeah. All right. So last tier here, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, T. Higgins. I'm going to throw Terry McLaurin in here. He's absolutely slaughtering it more than all the rest of the olds and maybe a hair younger than most of the other old. Like maybe you might catch an extra year.
Younger than Mike Evans. Yeah.
Right. Jaden Reed. I think Addison's worked his way back into here. Maybe it's a fluke. Maybe it's not. Lad McConkey, from what we could see, kind of as what he could be. So in this tier, and I got Michael Pittman in here as well, and maybe you disagree, but I just from the body of work that he's put down throughout his entire career, I think he's earned it. They've had a bit of a rough spot of how to get and then you could throw Josh Downs in there as well. So again, a big tier for me. And what you have here is like you have some number ones and Moore, Higgins, Ayuk, Hill, and then you have guys who are 1Bs that are all guys who can score points like 1As, right?
Right.
Pittman's a 1A to me, and I think they'll get it figured out. And Downs is great. I think Downs is leading that team in first team target share. So that's kind of where I have this. It's obviously a large last tier here, but I mean, this is kind of gives you the state of the wide receiver position, right? This is why you feel, at least I do in drafts, like if the running backs fall right, I can hit one or two, and then we can get to a certain point in the draft, and there's still a large cluster of guys here that I like to smack a couple in a row. So Big Co, I'll give you the floor here to talk about this last grouping. You kind of hit on some of them already, but give me your thoughts, process on this last little bit of wide receivers here.
Well, yeah, I mean, the names that jump out to, I don't think Jordan Addison's a fluke. 5 weeks ago, I came on there and we had the conversation about rebuild versus contender, who to buy. And I just thought that with Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson coming back off injuries, that Jordan Addison wasn't going to get enough targets and therefore his production was going to stay down. And he was a great guy to buy for a rebuilder because I think he's really good and I think he can do damage. And sure enough, I don't know, Kevin O'Connell decided, you know what, I got this guy on my fantasy team. Let's throw him the ball some more. And he's been slaughtering it, absolutely slaughtering it. So I like what Jordan Addison's up to. How could you not? And it's not a fluke. It's just a matter of like, if depending on, he's never going to get double teamed. If Justin Jefferson's healthy, he's never getting double teamed. And I think it just comes, it's obviously in the same spot where, Sam Darnold's hot. Sam Darnold's running hot. So in the team, I think if there's games where Darnold is struggling, he's still got to look for Justin Jefferson to A, get right, and B, if you're not throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson, you're an idiot, right? So on the games where the Vikings offense is going, Jordan Addison's going to do work, and they've been throwing these deep balls over and over and over again, and it's working out well. And I don't see any reason for them to stop. And, you touched on Lab McConkey. I don't want to talk about it. He's absolute stud. Cannot stop getting open. He's open because he was open. He was never covered. Open before the snap got there, he was open. Tyreek Hill's dropping down the board because he's old. But whenever Tua's in there and the offense started clicking again, he's doing work. So I think this, it's a big tier. It should be a big tier. I think the main thing that sticks out to me is my heart's broken because Tank Dell's not up here.
Yeah. And I moved him down to the next tier. How about Chris Godwin?
Yeah, dude, obviously if Chris Godwin's leg didn't get snapped in half, he's not up here. We're talking about Chris Godwin right now. It was like wide receiver 2 or 3 before when he got hurt. So like
maybe even 1.
And Baker was delivering. And so like I don't think that there's any way that you got
Chris him in this tier, or should we keep him down 1? I don't know what to do.
I think by the time he gets back and he's supposedly healthy, he's still 29. So I don't see why you got to force him back up. And I know you're not supposed to force him down, but you put age.
Well, Terry's in here, and Terry's probably around the same age. If Godwin,
but he's not coming back from a snap leg.
Right. And Terry's like wide receiver 2 or 3 on the season right now, where kind of Godwin was.
Exactly. I mean, and Godwin feels a year younger than Terry. If Godwin comes back healthy, he can scream up a tier 2 with no problem. He's never got it. I think
he's going to be on the Bucks. I don't see why he would sign anywhere else.
Yeah, easy math. He's not getting younger, right? So I don't think he's going to scream up too far. But the coordinator change and the shift to put him back into the slot to dominate was talked about, and then it didn't take long for us to see it come into play.
Obviously, Jeudy's playing really well right now. He hasn't quite earned his way back up into a tier this high, right?
The problem with Jeudy is there's no guarantee that he's going to be playing with the only quarterback that's enjoyed throwing him the ball thus far in his career, right? If you told me right now that because he's obviously going to be on the Browns next year, if Jameis Winston is on the Browns and playing and starting, then you could put Jeudy up in the middle of this tier with no problem, all up into shuffleboard, right? Because it's Jameis Winston and he's going to sling it. He is unfiltered pass attempts, unfiltered. There's not a wide receiver he doesn't like, but he loves Jeudy and he loves Cedric Tillman and he loves Elijah Moore. I love Jameis Winston. Golly, he's throwing it. He loves Njoku. He loves everybody. And he can get the ball out
45 times a game.
That's what I'm saying. And he loves the other team. He loves the other team too. Yeah. So if Jameis Winston is throwing the ball, Jerry Jeudy, give me all the Jerry Jeudy. But that is the only quarterback in 4 years that has thrown him the ball consistently. And so I've tried to buy. I've been in negotiations for 2 weeks in one league trying to get Jerry Jeudy, and I can't get high enough to where they want to be. Of course, he had another game where he had 80 yards and a touchdown in the middle of that, so that didn't help. I would pay the asking price if I knew that Jameis was his quarterback next year, but without knowing that, I don't want to pay the asking price.
What if Sam Darnold's his quarterback next year?
I don't know that Sam wants to throw it to Jeudy. I don't see why he wouldn't be, but you take Sam Darnold out of that dome and away from Kevin O'Connell and put him in Cleveland with the wind and the elements all the time. That might not be the same damn Sam Darnold. Yeah.
And then Cedric Tillman. For me, for my money, that's going to be the guy who the next guy throws it to a ton. I think he's going to end up being their alpha, their guy. I think that's why he's not playing this week. I think if they were in contention and they could be playing, I think he'd be out there. I think they're not, and I think that's a guy who's their dog. I love Cedric Tillman. I like what I saw from him immediately. I liked what I saw from him out of college. I'm not going to necessarily throw him up in here, but if the last 3 games he had been playing and scoring anywhere from 12 to 20 points a game, there's no way I wouldn't have him up there with those guys.
For sure. It's a good call out. And somehow we haven't talked about Jameson Williams.
I got Jameson Williams and Mooney and all those guys down after the olds here, but I think we're getting to that point. Keon Coleman, Worthy, probably not quite yet, right? We need to see some more stuff from those guys.
Yeah, and I'd have to take Jameson Williams over both of those guys too.
I agree. Mooney's been great.
Fantastic.
Can't sleep on Mooney right now. And Khalil Shakir, I think, has got to be. I don't think he's up there with those guys just yet, but he's climbing those. He's just got the ice shoes and he's just climbing up that mountain.
The picks.
Yeah, he's just
free climbing, no rope. Free climbing, no rope.
Good, making his way. He won't be denied, and I really like him. And not in the level with those guys that we're quite talking about yet. And then you got all the old guys: Amari, Evans, Adams, Ridley, Cup, Debo. I think they're in a tier down below. I'd rather take a shot on some of the young guys that aren't even in that last tier we talked about. So, anything else you got before we wrap up here, Big Co?
No, I just wanted to make sure that I like that you talked about Jeudy. I wanted to make sure that Jameson Williams went up there. I think we covered a lot of the wide receivers to get deep, and there's
Sutton needs some love to be in with the olds.
Sutton in the middle of that olds group, and I think he's a little younger than some of those olds. So
he's more of the McLaurin age, where he's like a year or so younger, or year and a half younger than some of the olds. Jawan Jennings, for my money, is working his way up too. We don't know how the Niners framework is going to work next year, but I could see Debo not being there. Like, how you're going to move on from somebody, get some cap space. It's Debo. You let Jawan be your 1A, 1B every other game, but he clearly has something with Purdy and working. And if he's going to be out there getting targets every single game, then he's probably up there with what the points per game are going to be with some of those guys we mentioned in that really large tier.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm in a league where I just bought Jawan Jennings, and I was trying to find the exact trade. I think I gave a 2026 2 and a 4, and I got a 3 back. So I did like a 2-3 swap. I gave a 2026 2 on basically I got probably the best team in the league. So it should be a playoffs team, second round pick next year that I gave away. Didn't get a terribles team third like that. I tried. He had 2/3. So I tried to get the bad team's third, which, could only be just a couple picks. It was a really sneaky effort. And, but he took that good, the bad team's third out and put in a good team's third. So I liked it. And of course I plugged him in. He got me 5 points, but that's fantasy football. What can you do? Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Been going a little long. The old Jason is going to be upset about the length of these two, but hey, you got a good combo going. Got to do what you got to do.
Ride the hot hand.
That's right. All right. Appreciate you guys. Be sure to hit us with the 5-star review. If you're listening on the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any action. We're going to be hitting so many rookie profiles. We're going to continue to talk the veterans and the buy lows and the sell highs all off season. We're going to be mocking it up so you don't fuck it up. We'll bring all that right to your little fingertips. Hit us with the $5 holler if you want some more content and you want to be involved in some conversations. There's also a free version of the Discord you can hop on. You can log into the Patreon and get a free Patreon and tie that to the free Discord. So lots of good stuff going on. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up for you in the future. So make sure you're locked into everything the FFD is bringing you. I'm Casey. That's Big Co. We're the FFD. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.